always come early, always stay late. And so we had so much fun because we were earlier than you. And so you always want to come early and always want to stay late. We were talking about um, different parts of the country, different parts of the world that look at things in different ways. And so what's interesting is that there's a almost like what I call a pylon, you know. Um,
Hi, Kylie.
Kylie, well, I'm still getting the audio. Hi, Kylie.
Hello, hello, good morning.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Mark, is it?
It is Mark. Yeah. Is this Kylie? The Kylie?
The Kylie. Hopefully, Amy said wonderful things about me.
I mean, I don't know how you're going to live up to what she said, honestly. Like, I'm like, nobody's that good. Like, but I don't know. So it's good to have you on, Kylie. We'll give you a little time to get acclimated and then we'll swing back around to you and get to know you a little bit better and see if
Perfect.
there's something specific that you would like to accomplish. We were just talking about, hey, Chris, how are you?
Good morning.
We were talking about how different locations throughout the country or world view time in a different way. And we were talking about the pile-on effect. And so based on different personalities, they view time in a very different way. So, which of these four shapes would you tend to like the most? A cube, a pyramid, a wavy line, or ball? Cube, pyramid, wavy line, or ball? And so the cube is the analytic personality, and they will tend to focus in on the past. The pyramid will focus in on the future. The wavy line is in the moment, lives in the moment, and the amiable is the short term. And so for me, I'm an analytic driver analytic. So I'm all about the past and the future. Some might say, seems like that sounds like you're bipolar, Mark. Well, the truth is, my kids say I'm not bipolar, I'm quad or quinpolar. And so, but the driver personality is pretty solid about being on time. You know, like a military family, I hear that is something where, um, if you're on time, you're late. And so it's fascinating. But Amy was saying, in certain parts of the country, like if you're 5 minutes, that's like the Amish. Like we live in the Amish area. Um, yeah, like being on time is, 3 to 5 minutes after, which is fine. Oh, so happy birthday, Nora.
Thanks.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
yeah, right. It's very cool. And so Amy, love that you were actually really early today, earlier than me. It's
I
like,
beat
whoa,
Mark on you guys. I was proud of
Wow.
yeah. Like, wow. I look and there's a notification. I'm like, and she's like 11 minutes early. I'm like, man, oh man, how did she get there? So it was great to have it. Amy, is there anything specific you would like to accomplish today?
Well, I think this is a perfect lead in from last week's conversation because we did not get to talk about time blocking and the power of time blocking. And I have a story about how I failed at that, when the month rolled, which we can get to later. But this perspective on time is also awesome, like bringing in your personality to it and then figuring out how
Yeah,
that makes you do time as well. So, yeah,
right.
we can circle back to time blocking later on.
Well, I think, failure is a choice. We always choose to fail because failure is failure to try or failure to learn. So Amy's not saying she failed. She just, because she doesn't fail, because she's always trying new things and she's always learning. And so it's like a child. Like this is the problem with adults, you know. So, Kylie, um, did anybody give you a prep on me before? Amy's saying
Nope, nope.
no.
I just told her to show up. Now I'm just throwing caution to the wind, Mark.
Okay. So Kylie, Like, do you have any expectations or desires or wishes or things like why did you come today?
Hmm. Curiosity. Curiosity, something that I've been trying to grow in more. And with Amy, that comes excitement as well. And so she spoke highly of you, and this is a brain that you need to just try to understand. Come with me, join me in this. So curiosity, I think, Mark, is probably what brought me in this morning.
It's fascinating. What are you curious about?
I want to know what helps keep Amy going and pushing forward because I got to meet with Amy in a more intimate one-to-one kind of fashion. And listening to her speak and what drives her, absolutely fascinating. You know, you will always want to put yourself with people that, maybe not motivate, but inspire you. So I thought, okay, this is the kind of person I want to be around. Amy wants to be around Mark. So sounds like we're already joining a team together. So
Right?
let me find out why Amy is interested in Mark and what he has to say. So um, whether that's I'm learning something
Right?
or I'm just here for the ride, anything in between excites me just to be here.
Well, one of the things I love about Amy, and there's a lot of things I love about her, but her sense of adventure and a sense of risk, because I'm also very curious about what I'm going to say. And that's the thing that's a little scary about for most people in introducing them to me, because they never know where I'm going to go. Like round and round, my mind goes where it stops, nobody knows. And so it's fascinating to me. Was there something, Amy, specifically with Kylie you were thinking on in inviting her today?
Well, I was just telling her what a good experience I'm having, and as I'm planning for 2026, like a lot of the tools that I'm going to be partnering with you on to make those businesses even more successful,
Gotcha.
and to get to that 3.5 year retirement plan now instead of 6.5 years.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I retired actually when I turned 30. You're probably all thinking that was probably just a couple years ago, right, Mark? And you're all sweet. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's true. I mean, at retirement, I was more busy after retirement than I was before. So when Amy says retirement, it's not like most people's retirement. That's when she can go ahead and really get crazy.
Yeah.
That's when she becomes unhinged. We're going to come back to Kylie in a moment here. Chris, anything you have that you'd like to accomplish today?
Any advice on approaching great clients who have horrible payment vendors would be lovely to talk about.
So when we look at when we look at the 530 grid, so we have the boss system. So the three elements. So we have people, business, and life. And in the business side, the 530 grid, um, we identify targets and then we develop and deliver a message. Have any of you ever read .com Secrets by Russell Brunson, founder of ClickFunnels? It is one of the best books I've ever read on marketing and how do you get people to engage in it. Um, so there's 5 areas for those that don't know. There's 5 areas in business. Marketing is how do you generate more and better leads. Pre-sales is once you get a lead, what do you do with it? And the sale is the yes or the no. Servicing is how do you create a raving fan experience where they refer everybody they know to you. Um, and then client relationships for life is how do you build, lifelong relationships. So it's like a pipeline. And so let's say that your wow income goal, I'm just making it up, but just let's say it's $1 million. So to get $1 million consistently, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and have all 5 pipes at 1 million. If one of those pipes is at 50,000, we're only going to be making 50,000. Just well, So there's a science to this. When Tom Coons, and you'll hear me refer to Tom a lot, maybe, well, we probably will have a hard time getting Tom on for this one here because he lives in California. So it's 3:30 his time. And so he's an early morning guy, but not that early, maybe. But you guys can check with Nora. And she and I did a podcast with Tom. So I've known Tom for over 20 years. He and I co-authored a book, Community Business Partnerships. He helped raise over $100 million for Easter Seals. First time, so I've known him for over 20 years. First time he saw the 530 grid, he's like, holy cow, Mark. He said, this is like the holy grail of business. Like this will work for a kid with a lemonade stand, which I had, as a kid, and it'll work for $1 trillion company and everything in between. And so there are 6 levels, there are 6 levels of proficiency in each of the 5 areas. When we identify targets, and then we develop and deliver message. And so Life Masteries Institute, they're the wonderful organization that puts all of this together and makes sure that, everything is there and all that kind of stuff. And so, I do a lot of volunteer work for them. I've done volunteer courses. I just donate everything that I do for them. I just donate to them. They give a lot away. Most of it they just give away, which is fine because it impacts people's lives. There are some courses that are wonderful courses that you can go through. I don't make a dime on it. It all goes to Life Masteries and all the great things they're doing. But I did a course on Develop and Deliver a Message, and it was based on the book by Dan and Chip Heath titled Made to Stick. So it's an orange book with duct tape across it. And when I went through that book the third time, reading through it the third time, at the very end, so I have a degree in marketing, a bachelor's degree in marketing, but they never taught me this, and it's so profound. You ask a question, you tell a story. So you ask a question, and you tell a story. So the question, what it does is it opens up the mind. And so when we look here in the sales process, the first box, there's different levels, like a degree. You have your freshman level, sophomore, junior, senior level, then you have your master's level courses. So the deeper you go, so to get your business to run without you, you want to get all 6 levels on in all 5 areas.
Hey, so Mark, I'm sure you remember hearing this, like when you do the ask the question, the feel, felt, found
Yep.
kind of storytelling.
Yep.
Which is old school right thinking, but probably very still applicable to today, right? Because still people are story generated.
Yep, absolutely. So that one is, I know how you feel, or others know how you feel. I felt the same way, and this is what I found. And so absolutely. And so the questions, the rule is if you ask somebody a series of questions, and so there's something through Life Masteries Institute called a 30-minute strategy session. And that 30-minute strategy session there's 3 minutes of questions. So it's like, if you're pursuing in a romantic relationship, the goal of the first 3 minutes is get them, interested in you. So they want to date you again. So the first date, you want to get them to where they want to date you. Then the next is going to be 11 minutes. So this has multiple applications. Like it's not just business. This will help you in every area of life. And so the second of 11 minutes, and what you're determining is if you want to date them. Same thing is true in business. First 3 minutes is you want them interested in you. How do you get somebody interested in you? You ask questions about them. And then, so that's 14 minutes there, 3 minutes and 11 minutes. And then the last 16 minutes, what you're doing is you're moving them into a position. So it's called a 30-minute strategy session. It works for any business. Doesn't matter what business it is. And the rule is if somebody asks you, or if somebody responds to you, that's a great question, 3 times or more, they'll buy anything from you. Seriously, I've been to networking groups. There was a guy I went to networking. I was at a networking group, didn't know the guy. And within 3 minutes, he says, Mark, I don't know what your business is. I don't know what you're selling. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to buy it. Seriously. Because he said, that's a great question. So there's a whole psychology behind that, and there's models behind that. We won't share that today. But Chris, what you're looking for is in .com secrets, he talks about fishing. And so if you're going fishing, you have to know what kind of fish you want. It's your avatar of your ideal, your ideal prospect. Once you find out what kind of, my wife and I we have 4 acres right on the river, 500, feet of riverfront, and there's over 200 species of fish and stuff like that. And so, if we wanted to do salmon, we wouldn't be catching them in the river beside us. So you want to say, who's my avatar? And Russell Brunson, he says, get a picture, maybe a man and a woman, and you get a picture and you visualize who's your avatar, who's your ideal prospect. What kind of fish are you looking to catch? Then you say, where do I go ahead and catch those fish? Are you familiar with SIC codes, Chris?
Yes, very.
So it's a standard industrial code. And so every business has that for those that might not. And so if you can find, that's a good way to find. And, so you can do that. You can buy databases of it. So once you get where you're going to catch the fish, the type of fish you're going to catch, then you go, where do they swim? So you have to go where they're swimming. Then you say, what kind of bait are you going to use? And that's going to be develop and deliver a message. So it's asking a question and telling a story. So it's not the only way you do marketing, but it's the most effective way. And I tell people I work with or coach or mentor, if you're not asking a question, telling a story, you better have a good reason for it. Like you always think, and so another effective way is I actually learned this technique. So I've been blessed to be an international speaker. Nora and I are writing my 18th book. It's titled Your Voice in My Headset, which is a book on friendship. So she's a pilot. And so, how do you have level 4 friends, friends that last a lifetime, that you're just always going to be in their life. And so I was in Nashville speaking a number of years ago, and to a professional group of people who are speakers. It's always fun to do that when you have like 50 people in the room and they're all professional speakers, a little intimidating. And at the end, the leader of it was Ria. And I asked her, I said, do you have any suggestions for me? And she said, Mark, you have the most amazing stories. So with 7 kids, I don't have to make up stories. I got some crazy ones, and they really connect with the audience. And now my wife and I, so we've been married 41 years, and we have 10 grandkids. And she said, you want to bring people into the story, was her suggestion to me. I said, ooh. So you tell the story, but you want to bring them into the story. I said, okay, that's a great suggestion. How do I do that? She says, just do imagine. So imagine ... So my wife and I met when I was 19 years old. So imagine being 19. I started companies when I was 14. Imagine when you were 14. So in the messaging, in the questioning, Chris, and I don't know if you use any technology. Do you know how you're going to reach them? Are you going to do phone calling? Are you going to do internet? Are you going to buy leads? Are you going to do email marketing, social media? Do you know how you're getting the leads?
Well, these are all, I was specifically referencing a client that I already have. They're already an ideal client. They unfortunately outsource their payments. So this great client that we have a fantastic relationship, I'm on level 5 with them. I'm working on client for life with them. It's just I'm not getting paid for stuff that they used to pay me for promptly, and now it's a problem.
So you're behind with them.
They're behind with me.
They're behind paying
I've
you.
delivered the service, and their payment vendor, their outsourced payment vendor, is not paying on my terms or theirs.
Do you know the decision maker?
Yes, I'm speaking with him this morning
Okay.
again.
So what I would ask them is, I would just ask them and say, hey, you're obviously aware that this is happening, and I feel real bad for you.
Mhm. That's a great approach.
right?
I feel really bad for you because it's going to tick us all off.
Right,
Well,
right.
Hold
it's
that
not,
part
it's,
back,
it's
Chris. Yeah.
clearly not just me, because
Yeah,
if they're
right.
doing it to me, they're doing it to everybody, which hurts
Right,
the relationships with
right,
all of their vendors.
right. Right. So they're probably expecting something. And so when you can go ahead and do, when I was in high school, I took Taekwondo and martial arts. And the first thing they teach you in any martial art is how to fall because you're going to fall. It's not the fall that hurts you. Is if you fall, if you fall properly, you're not going to get hurt. If you fall improperly, you can get hurt. The other thing they teach you is, the opponent, whoever you're sparring with, you do the opposite of what they think. And so if you do the opposite of what somebody's thinking, it catches them off guard. So if you say, hey, I feel really bad for you, and there are some challenges here, and that obviously, hurts relationships. And I know your heart, and you don't want to do that. Like, do you have any suggestions? Like, how would you recommend that kind of I approach this? And so what you're doing is you're not attacking them. They feel guilty. They might be defensive. Who knows what it is? And so if you ask them for suggestions on that, that will, in a nice way, say, hey, how, and they'll often give you, it's funny when Nora and I met, like, I think it was the first time I told Nora, I said, Nora, it's really important for, you knowing me, for you understand, I love people. I just don't like them. And she just giggled and laughed. And she says, you're going to like me. And I said, we'll see. Like, I'll be the one to determine that. And what's crazy is I do, like, immensely. It's insane. We've only known each other for 5.5 months, and it's just crazy. And with some other people that have known me maybe their whole lives, they struggle with it. And it's like, she's like, it's not that hard with Mark. He knows what he wants. You just listen to him and he'll tell you what he wants. And so I think a lot of times, if we just give people the opportunity to tell us what they want, like, what do you suggest I do in this situation? It's crazy what can happen to people. So
That's a
Yeah,
great suggestion. Thank you.
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I learned recently, got an email or something that taught a really interesting way of solving problems with someone. And it's very similar to what you said, but there's some different nuances. I thought I'd share it that approach them like you're saying, Mark, with I've got a problem and I could use your help. And how, and help have them come up with the solution. And then my little twist on it is, and then how can I help you implement that?
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Nora, is there anything you'd like to accomplish today?
Not necessarily accomplish, maybe. Um, this week's been a little challenging with being sick and then,
Mhm.
still having the um like you still make calls, like you just do it, like you still so been working on the disciplined. Um, but yeah, no, I don't think working on my action vision. So once I get all that stuff in order there, I'll share it with you guys. I know Amy and Rob were interested in that, so
Yeah,
yeah.
So this is
absolutely. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
it's fascinating. There's advantages to being a woman, and there's advantages to being a man, right? So there's advantages both. When you're sick, definitely there's an advantage to be a man versus a woman, especially if you have a 3-year-old. And
Right.
so I have not been feeling good, and I just shared because she's a level 4 friend. I thought she'd be really happy for me. I'm not saying she wasn't, but there was a little bit of edge to her voice when I told her, "Yeah, I got 10 hours of sleep last night." She's like, "Really?" And so yeah, it's neat. So Kylie, your personality, do you realize how unique you are? Like,
Yeah.
totally
This is
Like
my
you have,
first time doing this kind of assessment, so I'm really here to, hear what you have
it,
to say about it.
Let's
it's
hear it, Mark.
crazy. It's crazy. Like they're between the two tests, the geo and the pain quadrant test, there's 65,536 possible combinations. You have like one of the most complex of all personalities. Did you know that?
I did not. I'm learning now.
Oh my goodness. It's such a cool personality. It's like, I wish I had your personality. Like in the geometric psychology test, you test out as an expressive, analytic personality. Oh my goodness. That's just like, and what does that mean? You might be asking. And so in the expressive and analytic personality, so one of your greatest strengths at times, everything I'm saying is at times. Okay. So it's not all the time because you have a very complex personality. So it's going to be, depends on the situation. And so overall, you have, when I combine everything together, you have a chameleon personality. So one of your greatest strengths might be your flexibility, and one of your weaknesses might be your flexibility. So our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, and our greatest weakness is just our greatest strength misapplied is taking a strength and carrying it too far. And so in the geometric psychology test, you test out as an expressive analytic. One of your greatest strengths would be your energy, excitement, enthusiasm. You have a million ideas. One of your weaknesses is your energy, excitement, enthusiasm. You have a million ideas. Another strength you have is you like to go ahead and, at times you like to dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure things are done properly in order. Now, this is going to have a lot of inner conflict. A million ideas, and you got to do them all perfect. What could possibly go wrong with that?
Couldn't
Right?
imagine.
Right. So you have all these ideas, but you want to do them all perfect. And it's like, how do you do a million ideas perfect? It's like, but it gets more exciting because in the pain quadrant test, you test out as an amiable driver personality. One of your greatest strengths in that is your concern, compassion for people.
Mm.
And a weakness would be your concern, compassion for people. And another strength you'd have is, your drive, your assertiveness, you make things happen. And a weakness would be the same. So driver amiable, well, they might care about people, but they see their potential. So they might run them over and apologize for running them over and then run them over again. That seems a little harsh, but my personality, I run them over and explain why they deserve to be run over. I think they're going to give me a hug. They don't. My wife says, "You're 61 years old. You should know this." I'm like, why won't they give me hugs for explaining to them why they're not the smartest people in the world? Now, somebody like Amy's personality, very jealous of her because she's a driver, expressive driver. And so she can run somebody over and they're like, please, please run me over again. I'm like, she's meaner than I am. How come you like her and you don't like me? That's how Tom is too. They're just, so I like to be around them because then people tolerate being around me. They're like, so there's all these little secrets here. When I combine everything together, this is the most interconflicted personality of all the personalities because you have a million ideas. You want to do them all fast. You want to do them all perfect, and you want everybody to be happy. So this type of personality is super, super gifted. I mean, have you seen X-Men?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you know why?
Probably because they're all unique.
Because you're a mutant.
That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Yeah, you're a mutant. And so it's funny because people try to control mutants because you have all this power, and it's not good to control a mutant. It's just not. And so you want to help people. You have this. And so when this person's hot, they're really, really hot. And when they're not, they're really, really not. And so ever since you were a little girl, probably, Kylie, people would say, like, Kylie, how do you do everything? You probably have this really cute smile and shrug your shoulders and say, I don't know. I don't know how I do it. And so when they're hot, the reason they're hot, they're analyzing when they should analyze, executing when they should execute. They're focused on the task when they should the task, and people when they should the people. It is absolutely magical on how they flow. Their energy flows inside of them because they're able to do everything. But they also have a lot of inner conflict. Also, when they're cold, they're really, really cold. And the reason they're cold is because they're analyzing when they should execute, they're executing when they should analyze, they're focused on the task when they should the people, and the people when they should the task. And often, the only person that really knows this is their significant other. And so being in a relationship with this type of personality is a wonderful gift. I mean, it's a wonderful gift. Sometimes, I'm not saying my wife might not see it as a wonderful gift, but you have it naturally. I went ahead and chose to go ahead and have it. So I'm an analytic driver analytic, but I wanted to experiment with my mind, and I became an amiable for 2 years. That kind of messed me up a little bit. And then for 3 years, another story, another time, I chose to be an expressive. That really, I have a huge heart for expressives. I just like, wow, So I don't know how accurate, Kylie, that is, but that's what it shows us.
Mark, I'd say it feels pretty accurate so far. There hasn't really been anything that you said that I disagree with.
Nice. Now, you had said that your challenge is communication. And so with somebody with this gifted and this diversity in personality, it's going to be hard. So it's sinking. We tend to like people who are like us because you're a chameleon. You can always go ahead and be like somebody. And we tend to fall in love with people who are opposite. And because of your personality, you can be opposite. I'm not saying you're confusing. Well, maybe I am saying you're confusing. I'm not, but in a cute, cool way. And so, communication, my guess is you're a high frequency person. And so that's another, maybe next week we could get into that, because I think that would really help you. Because if you're like Amy's a high frequency person. And so, but she's nice and funny. I'm high frequency and I'm not nice or funny. And I'm okay with that because I have social autism. I'm like, if somebody doesn't like me, I don't care. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I don't know what to tell you. And it really frustrates people because they really want you to care that you don't like them. And I don't. I'm like, it is what it is. So learning the personalities will help you a lot. And when you ought to shift into, so there's little tips on this that we could go in a future podcast for sure. And then love, hop on. Is it okay if I share that or prefer not?
Sure.
You said taking the leap without being perfect, letting go of the fear of the unknown. And so the expressive, you shift into the expressive and the driver energy. So you get rid of the analytic. The analytic doesn't want to leap because they could make a mistake. But that's how we learn. You never see a toddler where somebody, they try to walk and they fall. And then all the adults, you don't ever see an adult going up, you know what? You fell. You'll never walk again in your life. But that's how we are in adults. And so the analytic has high ego, but then they have high fear. They have a lot of pride, which holds them back. And so they don't want to make a mistake. What they don't realize is they're making mistakes. And if you make mistakes without knowing you're making mistakes, well, then you can't grow because you're not making mistakes. The amiable doesn't want to let people down. So these two energy bases here are what's causing you to be concerned about the perfection and then about the unknown. The driver, that's part of having a big goal. And the expressive, I don't know, they're insane. Like they just love chaos. Like they just eat it for breakfast. They just enjoy it. They thrive on it. Anybody else have anything else that you'd like to cover today? So, Amy, thank you so much for inviting Kylie on. Kylie, so great to have you on. Hope you enjoyed it immensely. If you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, you have any questions on that, on what we've covered, Connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300. Outside the U.S., 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.